Space Valkyria 3, by far the largest and most exquisite endbase ever constructed on 2B2T. It was designed and built by Jack the Ripper, who is known for being one of the most skilled builders on the server. Work began on the base in January 2017, and by May 2019, it was nearing completion. But like what eventually happens to all bases on 2B2T, it was griefed. Or was it? You see, one really crucial detail about this base has been kept a secret for over a year since it was griefed. The base that was destroyed and revealed to the public was a copy. No, I don't just mean a world download, but an actual copy built block for block on the same Minecraft server, by the same person. That's right. This base, consisting of millions of blocks, was built twice. So today, we're going to take a deep look into the history behind Space Valkyria 3, and why two of the same base ended up being built on 2B2T. It all started in April of 2016. After Space Valkyria 2 was griefed, Jack the Ripper met a player by the name of Alpha Computer, and the two ended up becoming best friends. Subsequently, Jack invited Alpha to help him create the third version of Space Valkyria. The base had to be perfect. First off, it was going to be extremely far out, in the hundreds of thousands of blocks. Second, it was going to be massive, many times larger than the first two Space Valkyrias. Lastly, it had to stand out. What you are looking at are the original sketches of Space Valkyria 3 compared to Space Valkyria 1. That's right, Jack was so specific with his designs that Space Valkyria 3 was sketched out on paper first. Looking closer at these sketches, you can just see how much attention to detail was put into them. Now that Jack had his base designed, it was time to actually build it on 2B2T. But there was just one problem. How on earth was he going to get all the materials to build it? The structure would require literally millions of blocks to finish. Even for just one block type, for instance quartz, it would require over 81 double chests of that single block. At the time, there were no known duplication glitches available, so Jack and his friend Alpha Computer created an outpost with the sole purpose to mine the quartz needed for the build. It was nicknamed Quartz Eaters due to the sheer amount of quartz that was needed for the base. However, Alpha quickly realized that mining that much quartz and really any other block would simply be too tedious for a build of this size. The only other choice was to just wait for a new dupe. And not much time later, it finally happened. In November of 2016, a new dupe was leaked to the public, the drop dupe. By dropping your inventory on the same tick as disconnecting from the server and then relogging, all of the dropped items would get duped. Jack knew that this dupe was going to be the way that he would finally be able to build his dream base. So the quartz mining stopped and the duping began, until they had enough materials for the build. Now that they had all the duped items they could ever need, it was time to find a location in the end to build it. Jack made the decision to make use of end gateway portals that would generate out in the depths of the end, so the entire build would be centered around a single end gateway. A few extra members would also be invited to the base. After everyone arrived, the first site was established and terraformed. However, one of the members, Monoxide, accidentally used a hacked client that was thought to have been backdoored, possibly releasing the coordinates to the base. Luckily, not much of anything was built there yet, so the group very quickly relocated about a kilometer away to another site. After that, everything proceeded smoothly with building, until Jack realized that the middle ring, now dubbed Rainbow Road, was misaligned due to faulty block placements. This meant that he had to completely destroy and rebuild the ring to bring it back into alignment. As a result of this mistake, Jack took a break for a few months because he was just burnt out at this point. But he did eventually return a few months later. This is when he was informed by Oftopia that a former Spawn Mason member, Lane, heard about Space Valkyria's 3 construction and was actively trying to find it. By this time, chunk trailing was already a well-known exploit. This could have spelled trouble for Space Valkyria 3, so Jack made the difficult decision to relocate yet again. The entire base, stash and all, was moved to a new location about 13,000 blocks away, and work on the copy of Space Valkyria 3 began. The copy didn't take as long to build because the hard work of designing had already been accomplished earlier. So Jack instead perfected his design, and added many more tiny details to the build that the first one originally lacked. The release of the chunk dupe also helped with the base's expansion, mainly with the construction of the rings that are shown here. The plan was to eventually have all of this space filled to house an entire city. At one point, Alpha Computer had to temporarily leave Space Valkyria to do some business, which was to destroy one of his enemy's bases. He had an Ender Pearl set so that it could be loaded anytime he wanted to return to Space Valkyria, as beds can't be used in the end. Alpha ended up staying away for a few months, until January of 2019. Housemaster announced in the server's tab menu that the server would be updating to 1.13 soon. That of course never ended up happening. But Jack decided to load Alpha's Pearl and bring him back in preparation for the update. The operation seemingly went smoothly. However, neither of them knew that what they just did marked the end of their base. While Alpha was waiting for his Pearl to be loaded, he was unknowingly being watched by an invisible player named Frickin, a member of Nerds Inc., one of the most notorious hacking groups on the server. Not only did he know about a God Mode exploit, but he also had a hack that could see exact coordinates of where a player would be teleported to by an Ender Pearl. Frickin later shared this information with the rest of Nerds Inc., and they made their plans. A few months later, on May 9th, 2019, the nerds, who had already arrived at Space Valkyria 3 a week prior, all logged in and destroyed what they thought to be the one and only Space Valkyria 3. Later in that same year, Elytras were re-enabled on 2b2t, and Frickin released his world download on the 2b2t subreddit. This made many people travel to go see the ruins in person. FitMC was also handed a private world download made by Jack a few days before the grief, and subsequently made a tour video of the base. And that was it. Space Valkyria 3 was no more on 2b2t. Or was it? The base that was griefed was the second duplicate version of the base. So just out of curiosity, Jack checked on the original base 13,000 blocks away, and it was unbelievably still untouched. So Jack decided to just go back to work on it. After all, it wasn't technically complete yet. Jack even ended up rebuilding the ring that was misaligned by a few blocks. Also left over from the copy's grief was a donkey that the nerds actually missed. So Jack built a bridge connecting the two sites and moved the donkey to the new site successfully. The God Mode exploit that was out at the time could also be used as a duplication glitch. So the recovered donkey was used to reduplicate all the items that were lost to the nerds' siege. Many months went by, and the base was still unfound and intact. Alpha and Jack were pretty confident that this base would last for a good while on 2b2t, but after around a year, their luck finally ran out. In May of 2020, a Turkish Twitch streamer was casually flying in the end, with the goal of seeing the remains of the Space Valkyria 3 that was griefed. But at some point on his journey, he took a wrong turn and instead found himself at the original, intact Space Valkyria 3. He was ecstatic that he literally just found a completely intact version of the base he was looking for. Shortly after, the streamer and his friends began trying to sell the cords to Space Valkyria 3 on the 2b2t subreddit. This caught the attention of Alpha Computer, and a standoff ensued. After a lengthy talk, they backed off and deleted their threads. However, the damage was done. The streamer claimed that he wasn't going to leak the cords, and luckily he never did, but regardless, this marked the end of the base. It got found, and it was just a matter of time before others would find it as well, and a few others eventually did, leaving their own signs. So this finally marks the end of Space Valkyria 3. At least on 2b2t. You see, Jack still hasn't completed the base. So nowadays, he streams and films himself completing the base on his own private single-player world. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. So now you know the true story behind Space Valkyria 3. It was either double or nothing.